Out of the bloody water, breathless and drenched, he drags himself onto the shore to rest. He quickly checks on her, making sure she's alright too, but she's too furious to even speak. He tells her to relax, promises they'll head back soon, but she snaps at him to be careful. Right now, they're standing in the middle of demon territory. He laughs it off, saying there's no way their luck is that bad, not enough to run into a powerful demon this late in the day. But right on cue, fate slaps him across the face with a voice he knows far too well, a voice burned into his memory for years, the voice of Valkyrian, the Demon King. In the past, everyone who had ever laid eyes on him said it felt like staring directly at the personification of darkness itself. That very presence now looms before Kyan. Instinctively, he shifts into a defensive stance. With a furious tone, Valkyrian demands to know if he is a human. Too tense and hyper-focused to respond, he keeps his silence. In an instant, the Demon King blinks toward him, clearly extending an invitation to fight. Cyan reacts immediately, slashing with Karam, but only manages to shear off a bit of his hair. Valkyrian appears intrigued, impressed even, by the speed of his movement. Karam quickly asks who the hell he's trying to fight, and Cyan answers with a weighty pause. It's the Demon King. That alone sends her into a panic. She says there's no way he can beat someone of that caliber at his current strength. Now stuck in a dire situation, he realizes he's got no real chance of winning, and even escaping could end with him being caught. He locks up briefly, trying to process what to do. But then Valkyrian surprises him by calmly telling him to relax. He claims he won't lay a finger on a kid like him. He even lies down casually, suggesting they just talk for a bit. Cyan finds this strange and out of character, completely baffled by the Demon King's demeanor. Once again, Valkyrian asks if he's really a human and how he ended up here. He answers that yes, he is, and that he ended up falling into the Blood River, which dragged him all the way to this place. Valkyrian, however, isn't fully convinced. He senses something odd emanating from our MC and asks if this is truly his first time here. Cyan nods, but the other still isn't buying it. He then questions whether our MC has seen him before, to which he firmly denies. That answer, however, does feel genuine enough that Valkyrian believes him. After all, how could a human possibly know him when the latter had never even met a human before? Still, Cyan remains unsure, his mind racing to figure out if this really is the same Valkyrian he remembers from his previous life. He decides to ask why he's even here. The Demon King replies that he sensed an unusual surge of energy from this direction and came to investigate, explaining that as ruler of these lands, it's only natural for him to look after them. Our MC's lack of surprise actually reinforces his suspicions. His unbothered expression makes it seem like he already knows him. Valkyrian continues to talk, clearly thinking aloud, but Cyan isn't really listening. He's too caught up in how wildly different this man is from the version he once knew. If everything unfolds the same way it did in his past life, the demon invasion will begin soon. But looking at him now, he just doesn't seem like the type who would trigger such chaos. If this is his real personality, then something must have gone wrong to alter him. So Cyan takes a risk and asks what he truly wants to achieve as Demon King. Amused by our MC's boldness, he says that all he desires is to ensure safety and prosperity for his people, and if anyone threatens that peace, he won't hesitate to wipe them out. For a split second, Cyan glimpses the real core of Valkyrian, a raw force of evil restrained deep within. Something must have set him off in the past to awaken that beast, and our MC knows he has to prevent it from happening. He warns that soon, either Valkyrian or his empire may face a dire turning point. The Demon King frowns, puzzled by the vagueness, asking what he's getting at. Cyan admits he doesn't know the exact details, but if events spiral, a massive conflict between humans and demons could erupt, and he wants terms to stop it. Valkyrian wonders aloud why he'd want to start a war with humans to begin with. Cyan responds with a plea. No matter what happens, promise never to invade the human lands or declare war. That raises an eyebrow from him, who presses, what's in it for him? Cyan promises that whatever threat comes his way, he'll do all he can to support him. Valkyrian still finds it amusing, but there's something about our MC's courage he respects. He asks for his name, and upon learning it, solemnly vows, as Demon King, that he will never initiate war with the humans or encroach upon their lands, regardless of circumstances. But he warns that Cyan must uphold his end. With that said, he takes off into the sky. Not long after, our MC is spotted by frontline scouts patrolling the river. Word spreads fast. He becomes known as the one who survived the Devil Dragon. Later, back within the abbey near the Velius border, Cyan rests in a hospital bed. Erin sits nearby. With flushed cheeks, she hesitantly gathers her words and asks him if he would be hers. Cyan can't make sense of what's unfolding around her. From the look he gives, she picks up that he clearly doesn't want to go through with it, and it hits her hard. Tears start building as she admits it actually tracks that he'd avoid someone like her, just a useless royal with no power to offer. Her reaction starts to wear on him, her mood, her desperation, the way she's laying it all out. It's beginning to grate. Deep down, he already knows she's got nothing practical to bring to the table, but her emotional mess is tugging at his patience. She quickly brushes her tears away and forces a smile, insisting she just needs to level up, get stronger, become powerful enough that someone like him might finally look her way and accept her presence. She locks in that goal, swearing she'll grow so terrifyingly capable that resisting her won't even be on the table anymore. Just before stepping out, she pauses at the door and throws a quiet thanks his way for not dropping dead on the front lines the other day. Some days later, off in the shadowed edge of the forest's rear border, a man slips through the trees, making sure no one's trailing behind. He pulls a cube from his pack, arcane and faintly glowing. The moment it's exposed, dark chains of cursed magic lash out, locking his limbs in place. A voice cuts in behind him, Cyan's, remarking in disbelief that Reynold Crimson was the rat all along. The smuggler immediately launches into a frantic explanation, rambling about how the cube's no ordinary item. It's packed with enough raw mana to give it near-limitless storage, a design straight out of the Garam Kingdom's mage labs. The assassin yanks the cube away and pulls off his mask, revealing his face and casually reciting his full name like he's reading it off an arrest warrant. Reynold freezes, stunned that Cyan's the one who got the jump on him. He demands to know what brought him out here, but the other man doesn't even acknowledge the question, already digging through the crates and supplies the smuggler's been hauling. He notes everything, contraband parts, demonic remnants, and it clicks. Reynolds been draining corpses of their corrupted blood, packing the stuff into carts, and slipping them through the borders with inside help. He's sure of it. Someone's been feeding him access. Reynolds shrugs it off, swears he has no clue what his captor's going on about. But Cyan's way ahead. He's seen the demonic blood floating around the underground markets. Somebody's selling. While he tries to piece together who the mole could be, Reynolds tries to blindside him with a fireburst. He thinks it'll land, but instead, Cyan's already closed in, slicing through his hands and pinning them into the bark of a nearby tree. Then comes the deal. Either Reynolds spills everything, the smuggling path, the identity of the traitor, the whole operation, and gets a clean end. Or he holds out and gets dragged through a torture so drawn out and merciless he'll be begging for death before long. Later, over on the western edge of Velias, inside a trade station near the border, a group of merchants crack open a box of supposed blood shipments, only to recoil when they spot Reynolds' decapitated head hovering in a swirl of black mist inside one of the containers. Not far from the scene, Cyan keeps watch from a concealed vantage point, monitoring quietly as his plan unfolds. Karam, standing beside him, questions why he's letting these traitors walk free. He replies flatly, "They just need something to shake them." A warning. He remembers all of this from his last life. Reynold Crimson, deep in bed with Garam's government, had been trafficking corrupted blood right under everyone's nose. Every shipment led back to Garam's mage society, the same people fanatically obsessed with unraveling magic's source and stretching its limits beyond reason. Right now, they're still focused on creating handy tools like the Dimension Cube, but he knows what comes next. Soon they'll push further, start crafting horrors with that blood, twisting magic into something far worse, and he's dead set on stopping that spiral. Karam throws in a jab, mocking him for suddenly doing the Empire a solid after swearing he was done with all that, said he'd live for himself this time. Back in one of the estates owned by the Ushif, Ashel lounges in a room, having just wrapped up some private time with a woman. His attention perks up when she mentions something. Cyan apparently went off to the front lines, and he took their father with him. That's all it takes. Now Ashel's ready to pay his brother a visit. The bastard's been getting on his nerves lately, and he's not letting that slide. Emily lets out a loud cheer the moment she's finally off the front lines and safely inside the castle. The relief is real, and she practically shouts her excitement. She turns to Cyan, saying the academy's going to be a total upgrade compared to this grim place they're stuck in now. But he doesn't share that energy. His face says it all. He already knows what's coming, what's waiting inside those academy walls. And it's nothing like what she's imagining. Truth is, that place isn't the bright new chapter she's hoping for. It's a maze of backroom politics and shallow alliances. Envy fuels everything, and clout outranks talent. Actual learning takes a backseat to social climbing. She, on the other hand, is hyped because she's heard the academy's full of good-looking guys, and she's convinced it might finally be her shot at finding romance. Time passes, and eventually the entrance day arrives. Cyan reaches the front gates and on his way in, runs into Kranz. The moment the guy notices him, he bolts without a word, still spooked from the last time he completely wrecked him. Karam, confused by the sudden retreat, asks what's up with him. Cyan brushes it off, explaining he's just his half-brother. She comments that he doesn't really resemble the rest of the family, but he disagrees, saying he's not all that different from Alice. Once inside, the academy staff greet him, excessively polite, overly respectful, and he clocks something odd. None of them will meet his eye. Their behavior reeks of someone important lurking nearby, probably his father, the Duke, or maybe even his older brother. But he doesn't dwell on it. After grinding non-stop for the past year, he decides to take it as a win. Maybe this is what reward looks like. He moves through the hallway until he reaches his assigned room. Before he even opens the door, a familiar aura cuts through the space. It's strong, unmistakable. Ashel is on the other side. He already knows. And right on cue, as he pushes the door open, there he is, his older brother, standing there with a smug, been a while greeting. Cyan keeps himself in check, trying not to do anything reckless. Ashel comments that he probably doesn't even remember him. It's been years, not since before he entered the academy. That flicks a switch. Cyan snaps, fury rising, and moves to grab Karam for a counterattack, but she intercepts him just in time, urging him not to lose it, reminding him that one wrong move here could get him killed. He listens, barely. Instead, he greets Ashel through clenched teeth, saying he'd never forget his older brother's face. The elder laughs and ruffles his hair, pleased he still remembers. Then he strolls deeper into the room, casually mentioning that he's heard Cyan's gotten way better at fighting this past year, and that maybe now he might actually be of some use on the battlefield. Cyan bites back the disgust, says he's looking forward to it too, but the hatred in his eyes says something else. Ashel catches that glare and pauses, says he just dropped by to see him. Nothing more. But Cyan knows better. He doesn't waste time on people he thinks are beneath him. If he's here, there's a reason. And oddly, that thought calms him down. Meanwhile, just down the hallway, Emily's lugging his stuff toward the room. She yells out, pissed he didn't come help carry it. But as she approaches, she freezes. Ashel walks out instead. He brushes right past her, telling her not to mind him and to just get back to work. Once he's gone, she vents her frustration, demanding to know why the hell Cyan didn't warn her he'd be here today. He doesn't respond, just tells her to leave him alone for a bit. He locks himself in the bathroom, leans over the sink, and throws up. The pressure, the tension, it all hits him at once. When he steadies himself, he turns to Karam, demanding to know why she stopped him earlier. To him, it made no sense. It was the perfect opening. She could have taken over his body right then. She shuts that down, says she didn't hold back because she was being soft. She just wants his rage to keep growing. The more twisted it gets, the better he'll taste. Cyan smirks, says he prefers her this way. Over in Ashel's private room, a butler enters with an update. As ordered, he's been tracking the second princess, and now he's found her. She's deep in the northern region of the White Elves' territory, Farina. Ashel raises an eyebrow. Farina's not exactly welcoming, especially to outsiders. But of course it's her. She's got away with people. Makes sense she'd pull it off. He tells the butler to notify him right away if she ever decides to return. The servant nods, but before exiting, asks if something happened during the meeting. He looks different. Happier even. Ashel laughs, shaking his head. Says it's actually the opposite. His mood's crap. All he can think about is that look Cyan gave him earlier. Sharp and heavy, like he was staring down a sworn enemy. He orders the man to keep tabs on Cyan from here on out. The butler promises to assign someone for surveillance and leaves. Ashel stays behind alone, still thinking. Still trying to figure out what the hell his younger brother might be hiding. Just outside the castle walls, a formation of royal knights waits in full gear, lined up to escort Cyan on his way to the academy. Emily lingers nearby, clearly downcast. She's not allowed to ride along with them, and it stings. He says his goodbyes and tells her to behave, wishing her well before stepping away. Right as he's turning to leave, she calls out to remind him not to get discouraged if people mess with him once he's there, and to take care of himself no matter what. Her words catch him off guard, not because of what she says, but because it proves she hasn't changed at all since his last life. Still the same, still kind, still exactly as she was back then. Like that one time when he was 8, down with a brutal fever, blacking out again and again with no one around to even notice. No one but her. She'd picked him up and carried him on her back, running all the way to the closest doctor. Stayed up through the night beside him, watching over him the entire time. If not for her, he'd probably have died somewhere in a forgotten corner of the castle. Leaning his head out from the cart, he yells back at her, half joking, telling her she better behave, or she'll be punished when he returns. She waves after him, eyes glossy with tears but smiling wide. To him, she's never just been a maid. She's someone he holds close, someone who genuinely matters. Once back inside the cart, something starts to feel off. The escort, 6 nights for one person? It doesn't sit right. He starts to suspect there's more to this than a routine trip. Whatever they're planning, it probably won't wait until he reaches the academy. Hours pass before they pull over. One of the knights tells him they'll be camping here for the night. Curious, he asks where exactly they are. They respond vaguely, claiming it's a location in the center of Saffron, and that they should be arriving at the city by morning. But he knows better. The landscape doesn't match, not even close. No forest like this exists near Saffron. Judging from the surroundings, they've dragged him somewhere isolated, deliberately out of reach. He climbs out of the cart and right away the group closes in, surrounded. Calmly, he asks the only thing that matters. Who's pulling the strings? Who's behind this setup? They don't answer. One of them simply tells him the only thing he needs to know is that he's dying today. A knight steps forward and moves to swing at his neck. He sidesteps effortlessly, then takes the man's head clean off in a single counter. Raising his sword, he levels it at the rest and repeats the question. They rush him all at once, but they don't last long. Within seconds, he cuts through them like dead weight, limbs and armor crashing to the ground. He leaves just one alive. The last knight, staring up in sheer terror, finally understands how he managed to walk away from a demon dragon encounter. The moment they accepted this mission, they were already screwed. He walks over, weapon still drawn, and asks again, "Who ordered this?" No dodging, no delay. Panicking, the knight blurts it out. It was Mrs. Margaret. She's the one who issued the kill order. He doesn't kill him. Instead, they both return to the cart and resume the ride toward the academy. Along the way, the knight offers another piece of the puzzle. Apparently, Kranz had gone to Margaret and asked her for a favor. This hit job? Most likely his request. He grits his teeth. That's enough. He vows to settle things with Kranz later. The knight, looking dejected, asks quietly what's going to happen to him now. He responds flatly, he's useful for the time being. So for now, he can drive. Not long after, the outline of the academy finally comes into view in the distance. They've reached their destination. Back at the estate, Margaret completely loses it when word hits that the mission's gone sideways. News spreads that most of their men were found dead near the road, their corpses discarded like trash. Yet somehow Cyan survived, and worse, made it to the academy. Her nerves spike, disbelief setting in. None of this tracks. The butler calmly suggests they may have misjudged his abilities, but the idea that a kid pulled this off doesn't sit right with either of them. He figures there has to be a hidden hand orchestrating this mess. He floats the idea of sending a cleaner to the academy to finish the job. She cuts him off before he can finish. If they try that, he'll go straight for Kranz. She orders a full blackout. No retaliation, no leaks, no word of today's incident. The servant bows out and leaves, but outside the room, Ashel's butler has been eavesdropping the entire time, undetected. It's been 10 days since Cyan and Brian rode out from Saffron. By now, they've probably figured out he's still breathing. That means the road to the Royal Academy is finally safe. But now he has to figure out what the hell to do with Brian after this. Not long after, as he lounges in the back of the cart, soaking in the quiet, the escort gives him the heads up. They've arrived. He glances out and spots the academy building. Nostalgia hits hard. A flood of memories comes rushing in, some good, most crap. He walks in and hands over his credentials at the front desk. A wave of whispers follows. People stunned to hear the name Cyan Vert. He's instructed to head to his dorm and wait there. In 2 days, he's expected to attend the entrance ceremony and elemental assessment. The staff hands him an ornate key paired with a sealed letter. He gives both a once-over, baffled, then stunned when he learns he's been assigned a royal hall, all to himself. No one in his bloodline has ever gotten that honor, so clearly someone's pulling strings. Brian steps inside with him, still trailing along. Cyan turns to him. Now that the escort gig's over, it's time to settle things. The guy freezes, convinced his time's up. But instead of a blade, he gets a hefty sack of gold, payment for his work, more than enough to start over somewhere. Caught off guard, his eyes well up. He drops to one knee and begs to serve for life. The request throws Cyan completely. Why would anyone want that? So the man explains, his father always told him, if you ever find someone worth your loyalty, don't hesitate. The whole thing annoys Cyan. He thinks it's a stupid way to live. How can Brian be so sure he won't get betrayed down the line? The answer's simple. If it happens, it happens. Cyan shrugs it off and decides to skip the ceremony. He's going straight for the elemental test. Meanwhile, inside the dean's office at the Royal Academy, the man sifts through the latest elemental results. This year's batch brought in plenty of impressive candidates, like Aaron, who scored 2-star mana and shows a 50% alignment with the light element, and more beyond her. He's honestly impressed with what the kids are packing this year, but one name jumps out above the rest. Cyan. 2-star mana, S-rank physique, and most shocking of all, 92% darkness affinity. Not even his sister Alive Ver, the so-called child of God, hit those numbers. She only scored 88 in water when she graduated. He admits it's wild. None of the other prodigies match up to her little brother. Instructor Sarika points out that his element is still darkness. He knows, but she should also know that he was granted a royal hall on direct order from the Emperor. The kid earned it after saving Aaron from a monster attack at the front lines. Now the Emperor's thinking about marrying them off. He asks Sarika what she thinks would happen if the overlooked 5th princess married into the Vert family, known for churning out elite talents. The answer's obvious. Succession drama, empire-wide chaos, maybe even civil war. She cautions that pushing things too far could shatter the realm. But he brushes it off. No need to get ahead of things. He wants to see how this plays out, whether Cyan becomes the Empire's savior or its downfall. Elsewhere, Cyan paces the halls, going over his elemental results in his head. He's still stunned by the numbers. He only had 80 in his past life. He figures guzzling all that demonic blood must have given him a boost to 92. Out of nowhere, he runs into Kranz, who looks like he's seen a ghost. The guy clearly thought he was dead. Right next to him is a chubby jerk from back in the day, Popper Panarin, another asshole who used to make his life hell, just like Kranz. Cyan practically lights up at the chance to deal with him early. Popper charges forward trying to start something, but doesn't even get the words out. Cheyenne slams him into the wall with one clean kick before the guy can make a sound. He leaves Popper knocked out cold on the floor, then turns to Kranz, asking for a quick talk. Stepping in close, voice low and smile unsettling, he says flat out, he doesn't give a damn what schemes the guy runs behind the scenes, but if he lays eyes on him again, he's leaving the academy in a wheelchair. Kranz's legs give out. He drops, eyes watering, completely broken. Cyan walks off grinning wide, pride practically spilling out of him. Sarika, still lingering on the dean's words, replays the whole conversation in her head. She's now convinced she needs to keep tabs on him, tight ones. Just as she goes to pull a book from the shelf, she notices it's gone. Behind her, his voice breaks the silence. He's holding it, asking if she was searching for this. She whirls around, caught off guard. She didn't sense him get that close. She reminds him students aren't allowed in here and tells him to hand over the book. The second she gets it back, she strikes. Black fog lashes out. He narrowly sidesteps the hit and calls her out as the hall master of the assassin group, Mist. That throws her. She has no idea how he knows that. In his past life, their first meeting had felt completely normal. She'd casually asked about his day, assumed he wanted to be done with counseling fast, but insisted it was for his own development. Back then, it made zero sense. What growth was she expecting from someone constantly humiliated by his own brother in front of the whole school? She'd admitted she found him intriguing. Not every day someone shows up with an 84% darkness element, but he'd always been told darkness wasn't worth much. She disagreed, said that was just because humanity barely understands it. His potential, she claimed, was limitless, and she was looking forward to seeing what he became. Her sweet tone and soft smile had fooled him completely. The whole instructor act? Just a cover. She's hiding out in the academy, smack in the middle of royalty and nobles, while working as a real assassin. Her demeanor shifts. She tells him they'll continue this in her lab. He's a bit thrown off by how calm she is. Inside, it's just like he remembers. He takes a sip from the tea she pours and instantly knows she laced it. She laughs it off, but he shrugs. Poison doesn't work on someone who's been chugging demonic blood. He tells her she'll need a better recipe next time. She asks how the hell he knows all this, especially the fact she gets her orders from specific books in the library, the exact spot he went for. Now she's suspicious he might actually be Mist too. He tells her there's no better proof than that. That pisses her off. He brings up how, before he left for Chatan, someone questioned whether one night would be enough. Nobles have been dropping like flies lately. He grins and casually asks when the purification project kicked off. She plays dumb, claiming she has no idea what he's on about, but he calls her bluff, says he's on to the assassinations. She warns he's going to regret running his mouth. They both gear up to fight. Fog thickens around the lab as she suddenly hurls the table at him. He doesn't dodge, just drives his fist straight through the wood, splitting it in two. He tells her he's already shown more than enough to prove who he is. No reason to keep this going. She ignores that and keeps the pressure on. Even if he was part of Mist, she'd know. She's the hallmaster, and she's never seen his face. No way she's letting him walk. He draws Karam, slicing through every strike she throws with clean, quick counters, saying he'll give her all the proof she needs. That's when her eyes land on the weapon, the demonic blade. Only someone chosen by Eru can wield it. She freezes, rattled. He tells her he knows Mist is still searching for the successor. They can stop. He's standing right in front of her, and he wants her to take him to Eru. In a shadowy valley tucked somewhere deep in Lewin, Sarika pushes open a hidden basement door, revealing a tunnel that dives far beneath the surface. She finds it odd that Cyan doesn't seem remotely surprised that Mist's base turns out to be in such a grim, back-alley place. From this point on, she tells him, he's on his own. He'll have to walk to the altar alone, just like he wanted. He steps through the doorway, letting it shut firmly behind him. What lies ahead isn't ordinary space. It's a constructed realm formed from the god of fog's power, which makes the interior stretch far beyond what the entrance suggests. He already knows what time each group of Mist operatives appears. 2 show up at 4 p.m., 3 more at 11. As he walks down the dim path, a barrage of flying daggers comes at him out of nowhere. With a sharp swing, he bats them away cleanly. Honestly, this kind of violent greeting is exactly the sort of thing Mist would pull for new arrivals, though this might be a little much, even for them. A cluster of masked assassins leap from above to catch him off guard, but all they land on is his afterimage. He's already out of range. They throw another round of blades, but he isn't stupid enough to fall for the same gimmick twice. Hell, it didn't even work the first time. This time he swats the daggers back mid-air, sending them straight into the ones who threw them. They pause, clearly impressed by his reaction time and control. Now serious, they spread out and encircle him, ready to strike from every direction. He unleashes his fog magic, Bloodthirst Wave, a special mist-only technique that channels killer intent into a physical force to restrain opponents. The red mist wraps around their bodies, squeezing so tightly they can't even breathe. One by one, they crumple to the floor, passed out. But not all of them. One remains standing, unaffected by the spell. He clocks right away that this one is clearly higher ranked than the others. He gears up to cast Unshakable Roots, something more powerful, but the assassin blitzes in before he can finish, cutting him off. The attacker's mask falls in the scuffle, and it turns out it was Sarika the whole time. She inserted herself into the fight to personally test what he was really capable of. A total combat freak obsessed with powerful mages, she just happens to see him as the perfect target. He knocks her back using Karam, but she's still too hyped up to quit. While she keeps rambling about how skilled he is and how badly she wants to keep going, he abruptly takes off. He already knows what kind of lunatic she is, someone who fights for the thrill and doesn't stop until either she or her opponent drops. Only people who've faced her firsthand would understand. She's the kind that chases until one of you is dead. She sprints after him, casting a speed-enhancing spell to close the gap and launching an attack that he parries without much effort. Still, he has zero interest in throwing down with her right now. She slows and says he doesn't need to worry about people outside detecting his magic. This whole zone is sealed off, built by Eru himself. The outside world doesn't even know this place exists, which means he can go all out and use whatever he has in his arsenal without restraint. But she also warns that if he does, she might not walk out alive. Before he can respond, his legs give out, and he collapses right in front of her without warning. Then Kara materializes into her physical form, stepping between them. Sarika instantly recognizes her and bows in respect. The spirit demands an answer. Why the hell was she attacking Eru's chosen successor? Sarika casually replies it was all just a little test to see if he really was who he claimed to be. Karam is not amused. She's pissed and threatens to take over the fight herself. Before she makes a move, they both notice him on the floor, bleeding out and unconscious. When Karam enters her true form, it drains the life force of the host, and right now his body isn't built to handle that kind of load. She cradles him in her arms, yelling at him like this is the last thing he needed added to his plate. Sarika, still grinning in that weird, creepy way, interrupts to say she's not going to reject the duel that was offered. He forces himself upright, barely holding steady, and asks why the hell she manifested without warning. Karam tells him to stay out of it and rest. She'll handle this round. Sarika lights up at the idea, thrilled to fight the spirit instead. They square off, and she's clearly loving the threat, acting like a full-blown masochist. Before they can trade blows, Eru's voice cuts through the realm, booming from a portal overhead, ordering them to knock it off and send Cyan to the altar. Finally, things might go as planned. He's about to meet the god of darkness. People from long ago speak of the god of black fog as a heartless force, one who takes lives without pause or reason. They defend it as an act of mercy, twisted in a way only they seem to understand. It was their will, their call, what they claimed to want in the end. They insisted no one else had the right to define right or wrong on their behalf, and if killing was the only option to protect your beliefs, then fine. So be it. Most folks label that mindset insane, totally unhinged. But in truth, he has been shielding the vulnerable this whole time, which to Cyan just makes him a deluded fool. He steps through the portal, heading straight for the altar where Eru resides. The moment he arrives, he's asked if he knows who stands before him. He answers without hesitation, Eru, the god of black fog. Even though he's technically the chosen successor, the god has never heard his name before and wants proof, something solid to back the claim. But the fog energy already pulsing inside him says enough on its own. There are only two paths to becoming a successor. Either Eru handpicks you, or the Mist Stone does. Since the god doesn't recognize him, it can only mean the stone chose on its own, especially considering it vanished completely last year, which lines up even more with his identity as the next in line. Eru is honestly impressed that he managed to awaken Karam, let alone control her with such ease. And those eyes, sharp, focused, nothing like a kid's, tell him immediately this boy is from a time and place far removed from his own. Cyan once suspected the god had meddled in his trip through time, but Eru isn't the all-powerful being he used to be. His divine power has been long gone, and Cyan already knows that. Still, he came here hoping for better answers. Eru shrugs it off, saying it's actually worked out well. Less effort for him now that the successor found his own way here. Lazy as ever, just like Cyan remembers. But jokes aside, the god notices something off. His guest didn't come empty-handed. He can feel it. An object giving off a nasty aura. It's the hilt of the holy sword. He questions him. Wasn't the power of the demonic sword enough? Now he wants both? But Cyan has no intention of doing anything with it for now. He just doesn't want the world to remember the blade exists. Let it fade into irrelevance. The way he thinks catches Eru off guard, but he doesn't press further. It's none of his business. Still, tradition is tradition. He has to ask the successor what he intends to do with the power he's about to receive. This isn't the first time Cyan has faced that question. Last time his answer was dumb. live for his brother. That answer got him betrayed, got him killed. What's strange is how no one seemed bothered by it back then. Eru even warned him not to put blind faith in others, almost like he already knew how pathetic that ending would be. But this time things won't play out the same. Cyan isn't chasing some grand mission or noble dream. He'll use that power for one reason: himself. Eru tells him it's on him to figure out what's right or wrong, but he'd better think carefully. Depending on his answer, he might not leave this place alive. Cyan doesn't flinch. No fear, no second thoughts. He decided from the start he's done following orders, done living by someone else's rules. Now curious, Eru asks what he's planning to do with that kind of freedom, but he refuses to answer. It doesn't matter. As long as he fulfills his duty as successor, the god won't pry. He gets the message and doesn't bother asking anything else. He turns to Karam. He's got something to say to her. She's his daughter after all. The scary god routine drops immediately. His whole vibe softens as he cups her face and gently asks how she's been managing under her new owner. On her end, she hasn't changed a bit. Still sharp-tongued and cold like always. He leans in and plants a kiss on her forehead. It isn't just a kiss. That touch snaps her into her true form. And it doesn't drain any of Tyan's mana this time because Eru gives her a portion of his own life force, allowing her to maintain that body without wearing him out. Then he jokes that she'll need a body if she wants to get freaky with her master. She absolutely loses it, yelling and tearing into him for saying something so disgusting. Honestly, they're kind of perfect for each other. Same chaotic energy. The following day, inside the royal hall, Brian asks what the hell is going on, but Cyan is just as lost, watching it all unfold. At the center of the room, Sarika and Karam stand face to face, tension building with every glare. The sword spirit tries to rile her up, saying it's suspicious how close the constructor and Cyan must be if she's sneaking into his room early in the morning. Sarika doesn't react. She just gives a calm smile and lets it slide. Still, the air thickens like two wild animals sizing each other up before a brawl. Midway through the awkward standoff, he dips, saying he's going for a walk, and leaves Brian stuck between them, right before things finally boil over. Outside, though still within academy grounds, Cyan perches high on a rooftop, quietly observing the students down below. No one can see him. It's his go-to escape spot. His peace doesn't last. The metallic tang of blood hits his nose. Down below, a group of older students are ganging up on a younger kid, beating the hell out of him. One of them brings up doing a little experiment, and the others go along without question. The blonde one forms a glowing sphere of mana and yanks the kid's mouth open. They're about to force feed it to him. Before he can shove it in, a voice cuts through the air, sharp and clear, telling them to back off. Princess Erin steps forward, aura flaring, calling them out. How could nobles stoop so low and attack the helpless? The ringleader straightens up and introduces himself as Barrett Louis Mill, eldest son of a duke from the Garam kingdom, then asks who the hell she is. She hardens her expression and gives her name with full authority. Erin, 5th princess of the Ushif Empire. Barrett doesn't seem all that fazed by the princess title or the fact she's the emperor's daughter. He already knows she's the youngest of the imperial bunch. Puffing up his chest, he steps closer, clearly trying to intimidate her. She refuses to shake his hand and warns she'll report everything to the academy. In a sloppy attempt to defuse things, he spins around and points to the kid they were beating. He insists it's all just one big misunderstanding, claims they weren't bullying anyone. Turns out the kid's a girl, and according to him, there's no harm being done. He offers to let her speak for herself. The girl stands, trembling and bruised, eyes dulled with resignation. She quietly tells Erin nothing's wrong. They weren't hurting her, and it's best if she just walks away. He bursts into laughter, the kind that screams villain reveal, but she doesn't buy a single word. It's painfully obvious the girl's lying out of fear. Before she can lead the girl away, he grabs Erin's arm to stop her. He tells her it's already too late. Leximus made her choice. Right as things are about to spiral, Cyan steps in, sweeping his legs out from under him and sending him crashing flat to the ground. The inflated aura vanishes instantly. One glance is all it takes for Cyan to recognize Leximus. Hard to forget someone you had a brutal death match with in a past life. She was the continent's top swordswoman, born in the Ushif Empire, but after messy events post-graduation, defected to Count Klein's house in Garam. That duel had been long and savage. He was ordered to assassinate her. Instead, he challenged her formally. He didn't gain a damn thing from doing it that way, but she'd earned it. She never used mana and still held the title of best sword user alive, so he faced her head on. No tricks, no sneak attacks. Back on his feet, Barrett dusts himself off and locks eyes with Cyan. He knows who he's dealing with. Words spread about a battlefield survivor who even stood toe-to-toe with a dragon. Rather than start a fight, he offers a spot in their game. It's called Mana Marbles, a twisted pastime where you jam mana orbs down someone's throat until their internal mana tears itself apart. They're no threat to Cyan, but he's not in the mood for a fight either, so he cooks up a scare tactic, forming a mana marble in his hand and building it until it balloons to the size of a damn cow, then calmly threatening to force feed it right back. They take Leximus to the dorms to get checked out. She looks okay on the surface, but she'll need to rest a few days to let her internal injuries mend. Aaron stands beside the bed, proud and unshaken, telling her to take it easy. She assures her this was something they had to do and she doesn't owe them a thing, then teases how those cowards bolted the second Cyan showed up. At the far end of the room, he stays quiet, remembering how tough she really was. Cracked ribs, a concussion, still pushing forward. Exactly what you'd expect from the best swordswoman the continent would ever see. She catches him staring and asks if they've met before. He apologizes, saying no, but it's a lie. Aaron asks where her room is. She wants to walk her back so those guys don't mess with her again. Leximus mentions she lives in the commoner hall. That throws Aaron off. She didn't expect that. She blurts out, "Wait, you're a peasant?" Leximus nods. She got into the academy thanks to instructor Veltain, who promised to cover her fees. But after getting dismissed with no explanation, she's left without support. Cyan suggests she withdraw from the academy entirely. Things aren't going to get better here. Aaron, clearly upset, watches his face. He changes tone, telling her to take Leximus in as a servant, train under her, learn swordsmanship along the way. Leximus blinks, confused. Wait, why is he calling her a girl? She thought he didn't know. Turns out no one ever told him. She apologizes for the misunderstanding. She dresses in boyish clothes, keeps her hair short. It's easy to see why people assumed wrong. Aaron is embarrassed but shakes it off. She actually likes the idea. Having Leximus under her wing means no one will dare mess with her again. She can stay in school, study, live comfortably, and train in peace. Leximus thanks her and swears to grow into someone worthy of that protection. She turns to thank Cyan too, but he's already gone, slipped out without a word. He's done enough. Aaron can handle what comes next. And now he finally understands why Leximus abandoned the Empire and defected to its enemy. It was because of Barrett. He was the reason she lost her mana, but now she hasn't lost it. So the question is, how powerful could she become with both sword skill and mana? Maybe strong enough to give even him a hard time. Still, that's a concern for another day. He's just been given his first mission as a member of the Mist. Earlier that morning, Hallmaster Sarika handed him the target. A new assassination awaits. She'd already given him a hell of a first mission to start with. He's already stressing out, wondering how much worse it'll get from here. As he moves through the corridor, a sudden crash rips through the silence and part of the wall explodes outward. A massive figure steps out from the debris, towering and broad-shouldered. His first thought is that some kind of demon creature has broken into the academy. The guy calls out, asking if he's Cyan Vert, the famous one with an S-rank body type, also the youngest in the Vert bloodline. Turns out he's not a beast at all, just another 11-year-old, Seth Chaharkin. Apparently, he's heard the stories. The kid who walked off the battlefield after fighting a dragon and lived to tell it. But the thing that really got his attention? The S-rank physique, a level even he couldn't reach. So now he's shown up just to throw hands and see how he measures up. Cyan finally spots the emblem pinned to his uniform and clocks where he's from. The Sparnia Empire, a desert-based nation tucked on the eastern edge of the continent. Back in his previous life, that place gave even the Ushif army trouble because of its brutal military, led by none other than Seth himself. But for all its might, it still crumbled after the prince suddenly dropped dead from illness. Dude had built himself into a walking tank, but forgot to take care of the basics, like not dying. And now, here that same guy is, standing in front of him way earlier than expected. The timeline doesn't match. They weren't supposed to meet this soon. Fighting random children isn't on Cyan's to-do list today, so he shuts it down. He says the academy doesn't allow street fights. If you want a duel, file it properly with the main office. Muscle mass clearly doesn't equal brain power, because Seth bolts off in the completely wrong direction. Cyan just watches him disappear and lets out a breath, glad he won't have to deal with that walking dumbbell for a while. He's got a mission to focus on anyway. Out behind the academy, tucked away in a shadowy corner, two men are speaking. One's a knight, confirming that everything's ready to go. The other gives him the order to move, deliver it to the buyer immediately. This man is Zickerman Albus, one of the richest three on the continent. On the surface, he looks like a saint, donating to charities and handing out cash like a hero. But in reality, the man's a monster, the kingpin behind the slave trade. He runs it, manages it, and even breeds creatures specifically to sell them off. Today, he's about to unveil the jewel of his twisted collection. He shouts at the staff to handle it with care. This one's his masterpiece. From the lack of guards, Cyan figures this is probably the best chance he'll get for a clean hit. But just as he's about to move, Karam senses something odd, an energy she doesn't recognize. There's something unusual here, something that isn't human. Albus, meanwhile, is too distracted admiring his captives to notice anything wrong. Then it hits, a pressure in the air, and dark mist begins curling through the space. One of his attendants suddenly drops, his head gone in a flash. Before anyone even thinks of reacting, Cyan's already sliced through the rest, silent and precise. In a matter of moments, every last bodyguard inside and out has been dealt with. Albus, now pale and shaking, begs for his life. He pulls out money like it's a shield, offering it desperately. Cyan isn't impressed. He responds by severing the man's hand. For someone who's tortured and trafficked lives, built a business out of breeding and breaking others, death is the only sentence that fits. Still, he gives him 60 seconds to confess, say his piece, and go out without screaming. The man crumples, bawling. He knows how this ends. He starts ranting, saying he was just filling a need. It's the buyers who are the real villains, says the demands out there, and he's just the supply guy. Cyan isn't moved. That pathetic excuse